Salutations. It's Sal again. Someone left a comment on the last video I did, which I'll put here, which I thought was a pretty good idea. When I made that video, I made it to say goodbye to the collection. I thought that was inherent in the thumbnail, but I realized now that it was very clickbaity looking, which I'm not really about, but I thought that it was kind of a good idea to, I guess, explain what brought me to this point and just kind of, I guess add on to it a little bit. You can still see the totes behind me of the random stuff. Normally I would write down my thoughts and kind of go off line item by line item to kind of organize everything, but I'm not going to do that. I decided I'll just tell the story as I can. So it'll be a little disjointed, it'll be a little unorganized, but that's just the way it's going to have to be, I guess. I'll start things off around 2018. That's kind of when I got back into collecting, right? Because I'd been a collector prior. You can watch the Q&A video. I talk about this kind of stuff a bunch on the channel. But 2018 was the first time I could really get back into collecting in a way that I could kind of predict, I guess, if that makes sense, in a way that made sense, a more reliable way, I guess. And so I was collecting, and that's when I started watching YouTube a lot, because up until that point I didn't watch YouTube really. Like, I would periodically watch a video or someone would send me one or something, but I didn't take it seriously, because the YouTube I remember was like circa 2008 to 2012, and that was like someone would make a viral video and then everyone would make their version of that viral video, kind of like how TikTok does now, which I hate TikTok. I hate it. And it's not the app itself necessarily, it's the people who use it and take other people's ideas for their own and then put their hashtags and stuff all over it. And that stuff really bothers me. But that's kind of what YouTube was at that point, was a bunch of random stuff. Like, there was the Berries and Cream video, there was the Harry Potter Puppet Pal sing-along, but it was like someone would make a video and then other people would make their own. Anyway, I've said that, you know what I'm, okay. But, The Last Jedi is what kicked me off on YouTube, because I hated the movie, I thought it was awful, but everyone else I knew seemed to really like it, and I was like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I just don't get it. So I typed the phrase into Google, am I the only person who doesn't like The Last Jedi? And then YouTube videos started populating. And then that's where I started following, world-class bullshitters. Jeff Hicks is a good friend of mine. And it kind of showed me, like, oh, there's actual YouTube stuff. Like, there's people who do this. Like, it's not just all stupid little videos. And from there, probably within the week or something, I'd always wondered why Luke had a yellow lightsaber in Vintage. I didn't get it, even though I was like a collector at that point. I was like, I just want to know, so I typed in like, why does Luke have a yellow lightsaber? And Retro Blasting, ping, number 1. So then I followed Retro Blasting ever since, and then the two of them did their Toys R Us video together, and I was like, so this is the thing, like, there's like a broader community here. And so I kind of got involved in that. And between watching Michael's videos and Tony's videos at Analog Toys and watching Jeff and really becoming close friends with Jeff, who he kind of pushed me to start a channel. He's like, I don't talk about toys. You and I talk about toys all the time. Why don't you make a channel about toys? And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Why not? And at that point, I only watched Analog Toys, Retro Blasting, and like Toy Boy. I didn't watch any other modern collectors, so I entered the sphere without zero research, thinking I would be the only person talking about modern. Well, I quickly found out after like 3 seconds that was not the case, obviously. But again, I was new to the whole YouTube thing, so started to try and carve out my own niche, depending on how you want to say it. And I found it was really difficult. It was a slog. It was really difficult. And, the production value wasn't good. My production value never got any better. Who am I kidding? But quickly, the point of this is that quickly collecting and YouTube became one thing to me. Because I was collecting again anyway. I had a respectable collection at that point when I started the channel, and then they just started feeding one another. Like my channel was a reason to buy more toys because I needed toys to talk about, and the collecting was just a reason to make the videos, if that makes sense. Like I bought this thing, I need to make a video about it, versus I bought this thing, I want to make a video about it. And so they just started bleeding together to where I was buying entire waves of Marvel Legends I didn't want because I felt like I needed to make videos about all the figures in that wave. And it got out of hand quickly. And I didn't quite realize it. You know, the phrase is see the forest for the trees. I didn't really see it. I just saw like, oh, I have more toys. Like, okay, worst case scenario, it's another thing for the collection, which is a dangerous rabbit hole. And I was spending a lot of money that I didn't have on toys. That's a dark side of collecting, especially on the YouTube sphere, that doesn't get addressed a lot. A lot of these, we'll call them influencers, get their stuff for free and don't really say that a whole lot. Like they'll mention it in passing, but they don't really go out of their way to say like so and so sent me this, I didn't pay for it. And I don't know whether that's to appear more objective in their video or what. When you're impressionable or gullible or like me, you chase dopamine, you fall down a rabbit hole quickly, right? So I wasn't doing so hot. We'll say that. I was spending a lot of money I didn't have, foregoing a lot of things so I could buy more toys to make more videos. And eventually, my number one hit, if you will, on this channel, I got the Black Series Snowspeeder. And I was the first one, I believe the first one, to make a video about it. Somehow I got mine like a little bit early or something. I pre-ordered it at GameStop and they called me. I went and got it and made a video that night and uploaded it, and it just blew up overnight. Which even by YouTube standards, I think it's at like 38,000 views or something, and even by YouTube standards, that's really not very much. I also got tore apart in the comments because I only had I had just crossed like 200 subscribers at that point. So I was used to making my videos a certain way. And then I had this influx of people watching this video, just got tore apart in the comments about how the video was made and nitpick this, nitpick that, because they were used to a certain style or milieu of influencer, and I'm not that. But because of that video, I got pushed over the threshold and qualified for monetization. So I turned on monetization. I was really excited. I was like, thank God I have some passive income now. Like, maybe this channel will start to pay for the collection, and it never did. It never will. You have to be at a super stupid high level to make any meaningful amount of money on YouTube. And I was not that. So, not that money's everything, but when you buy a $25 action figure simply for the review because it's part of a wave, and you make 8 cents off that video, still 3 years later it's only made 8 cents, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. You're not even breaking even at that point. So then it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, well, if no one's watching these, if no one, is interested in these, why am I buying them? Am I buying them for me, or am I buying them for the channel? And if no one watching the channel is interested in them, then why did I buy it? So this has been a long time coming. It's not like I just woke up one day and decided, I don't want to collect anymore. I'm getting rid of all this. Like, I've been thinking about this for probably the last year and a half, maybe even 2 years at this point, really. Sorry, I had to, I'm using my webcam to film, and once it gets to a certain point, it, starts fucking up, and if you don't, stop, then the whole video gets corrupted, so there's gonna be kind of weird breaks other than normal jump cuts, so, anyway. And of course, it's not all about making money on YouTube. Like, it's not like, I don't expect you all to pay my bills or anything like that, because YouTube, being perfectly honest, the most I ever made on YouTube was $800, and that was over the course of a year. and that's like $3 a day. And that's only because that was the first year we did Iconicon, and about 600 of that was super chats during that entire week. So if you remove that, it was like 200 for the year, which is less than $1 a day. And that's just pure ad revenue, which you don't get all at once, by the way. And then you have to pay taxes on the next year. So just keep that in mind if you are wanting to enter into the YouTube sphere. That's the reality of it, okay? You'll notice I've turned off monetization on all my videos because of the taxes. 2 years in a row, I've been hit pretty hard with taxes, so that's why it's turned off. And that was, I shouldn't say the start of it because that's just not accurate, but that's part of it, right? I was, again, they kind of meld together. Like I was buying for YouTube, I was buying toys to make videos on YouTube, but I was also buying things for my collection using YouTube to justify buying them, right? Sorry, there's a plane flying overhead. For anyone who's been following me for any amount of time, you know that I've moved a lot. I started my channel technically in November of 2018, right? And I made a couple videos. They've since been deleted. I put together like a TIE fighter model for one of them, and the video got corrupted, and I didn't know anything about editing, so I did pretty much what I'm doing right now and just uploaded it directly. So I had to delete that. But Mega Man, who's up here, he's right here, was the first video that's stayed on the channel. Which that was that video I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be, like the personality I wanted to be, and trying to figure out philosophically like who I wanted to be on YouTube. Like there are some YouTubers who don't do any edits at all to their video; they leave all the bloopers in. Some of them, you know, do the whole used car salesman kind of attitude at their beginning of their videos. And it took me a couple of videos to kind of figure out like who I wanted to be, right? And I know they always say be yourself, which, you know, be yourself until you can be someone else who's better than you, right? But I ultimately settled on just being me. Anyone who's met me in person that's like Ryan, Bobby, Tony, Michael, Drew G, Scott Hughes, like a bunch of people will tell you this is what you get. Like I don't change. I become more annoying. I make a lot more self-delete jokes. But that's about it. It got to a point in collecting in YouTube again where I was buying things I didn't want for the channel because I was like, well, if I'm going to talk about like if I want to talk about the Solomon Grundy Build-A-Figure, then I need to talk about all the characters in the wave, right? I felt like that was the thing I had to do. I felt like I owed it to the audience to talk about all the figures. So I ended up buying the entire wave. And I still have them. You know, the Penguin looks great. Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul looks great. Catwoman looks like garbage, and I'd rather not have that figure, but I do. And it was getting to a point making these videos where I'm like, I can spend, you know, 20 minutes going over a figure and its background and all that kind of stuff, or I can give you like a 3-second video like, buy it, or this thing sucks, don't buy it. And I could have said that in as many words. But YouTube Shorts weren't really a thing. I don't really like shorts so much. I know I've made a couple just to kind of see how they go, and the shorts get more views than anything else on the channel, which makes no sense to me. But weirdly, this most recent video cracked 3,000 views in 24 hours, but my collection tour that I spent days on, like filming and editing and uploading, doesn't even have 1,000 views on it, which is just bizarre to me, considering how many people asked for that video. No one watched it. But the video that no one wanted, I just kind of made because I was like, well, you know, it's a bunch of stuff's missing. I'll give people an update. Boom. That's YouTube for you. I haven't lost passion for toys. I still like them. You know, I bought one today, actually. Jack Specific has been redoing a lot of their figures, and Metroid and Zelda are my two favorite franchises. But Super Metroid's my favorite. This is obviously Samus from Prime. But they've been like redoing all the articulation. Like they gave this butterfly joints. She has double jointed elbows now and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, I was at Walmart buying groceries, and I'm like, I always check the toy aisle. I still do. I'm not actively buying toys, obviously. Present company excluded. But all my friends buy toys, so I always go through the toy aisle just in case. I'm like, hey, are you looking for this? You looking for this? They have this. Are you? I still do that. And I saw that, and I was like, oh, $10. Why not? And she's the first figure I've bought since Mario, Luigi, and Bowser, which was however long ago. And before that, I don't remember the last figure that I bought. I mean, I've had pre-orders show up, but that's about it. I do still periodically buy a toy occasionally, where it used to be I was buying like 3 or 4 figures a week, right? And it's unsustainable. It's just flat unsustainable because I would chase dopamine. I'd get it in my brain like I need to buy this thing. I have to own it now. And I'd go on eBay and I'd buy it, or I'd go on Amazon, or I'd go wherever and I would buy it, and then I'd be like, well, I have this now. Cool. Recently, my thing I wanted to buy that I had to have, I went on eBay and I was looking for copies of Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, because I don't have those anymore. I have Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on 3DS and on Switch. I don't need them on N64, but I'm convinced in my brain that I have to have them on N64 because that's the real copies. That's what it needs to be played on. But I don't have a television that my N64 can hook up to. It's not that I'm quitting YouTube or that I'm like quitting collecting entirely. It's that I'm trying to reprogram my brain so I don't do things like that anymore. So I don't just consume mindlessly because I'm convinced that I have to have this one thing or my world will end. Even though I'll buy it, it'll get here, I'll get 10 seconds of dopamine and I'll put it on a shelf or in a box and then not look at it. That was the other problem, right? So this collection I have now and where I'm living now is it's not the first time I've had my collection displayed, but it's the first time in a while that I've had my collection actually out and displayed properly. 2018 I had it displayed, 2019 I had it displayed, 2020 I moved. Right, well, late in 2019 into 2020 I moved. But I knew in a year I'd be moving again because I'm still active military, and I knew that I had a year left on those orders and I'd be going somewhere else. And I was like, I have a bunch of shit. I don't want to unpack it all and put it on shelves and have to repack it in like 6 months because it's going to take me 3 months to unpack everything, display it all. And then 6 months is going to go by and I have to start packing it all again. So I just left it in boxes pretty much. Right. So then I move here. I get it all out because I'm like, okay, I'm here for 3 years. I'm not going to move again. I don't want to move anymore. I'm going to get it all out. I'm going to display it. It's going to look great. And it did, I think, kind of, but not really, because everything was just crammed onto shelves. You couldn't see the forest for the trees. It was just packed with figures on a shelf because I'm like, oh, everything has to fit on this one thing. All my MCU has to fit on this one thing. All my Beast Wars have to fit on this one shelf because I don't have any other space for it. And I continued buying toys. I just kept buying them. I kept buying them with nowhere to put them, so if I'm not making a video about it, because I never made a video about this, right, this penguin, I just keep grabbing him because he's in front of me. But I never made a video about him. He's not on the shelf because he couldn't fit. Why am I buying these if I can't at least put them on the shelf to look at them occasionally, even if I'm passively just going by them? What's the point? Point is, I had it in my brain. I was like, one day I'll own a home. I'll have a big basement. I'll have these cool diorama displays and everything. I'll have like my Legacy Falcon up on jacks and stuff so it looks like it's flying around. And I had this whole thing planned. But the reality is it was never going to happen. And it was never going to happen because it just wasn't in the cards for me, right? I move too much. I move every couple of years to go somewhere else. I'll never be able to buy a home and make it the way I want it to look. And what's going to happen? I move, so I'm going to have to pack all this up all the time, redo it every time I move somewhere. Every damn time. And again, people who've been following me or know me personally, I had a Terradrome. It was like 99.9% complete. It was a little yellow, a little dirty, but nothing was broken. The fire bat, the Havoc, whatever the thing's called, was great. It had all the missiles. Like it was It was good. Like even the little like joystick things on the fucking chairs, not snapped, nothing was broken. And then I moved, and it was demolished in the move. That's just the way that it goes. And I started looking at all these other big things, like the Falcon and all that, like the dinosaurs, the MCC. I was like, I don't want to move this stuff again. But in my brain, I'm like, these things are part of a set. Everything needs to be together, right? If I have, I don't know, let's grab this Bullseye from the 3-pack, who I opened on Loose But Complete like 4 months ago, and it's been living over here ever since I opened it. That lets you know where I've been mentally. But it's like, okay, I have Bullseye. Okay, well then I need Daredevil, and if I have Daredevil, then I need Elektra, and if I have those three, then I need Kingpin, and it just goes from there. I broke down the Terrordrome into parts, and I sold the parts really for a song, if I'm being honest. Like, I won't name names, but they got the deal of a century on the parts that I gave them. Well, sold them anyway. But if I wanted to sell like the MCC, or if I wanted to sell something else, I'm like, well, if I sell that, then I have to sell this, and if I sell that, then I have to sell these figures because they go to that, and if I sell this, then it was the collecting mentality in reverse, where if I buy this character, I have to have this character. And I was like, okay, well, I got stuck in this boot up loop, for the lack of a better word. I just kind of came to terms with the fact I was like, I'll never have the place to really display these things properly. Do I sell these things? Do I keep this dream alive? Because it just made me sad at the end of the day. Like, I want this epic battle. Like, the tables behind me was the closest I got to that, which was supposed to be this really cool setup of like the G.I. Joe headquarters, and Cobra. The Terrordrome was going to go on the other side. There was going to be a big battle in the middle of the tables. And if you saw the collection tour, even if I had the Terrordrome, it wouldn't have fit because I had nowhere else to put the rest of that crap. All the spare wall space in my apartment is filled with shelves and toys. And I have this affinity, I guess is the word, for big toys. Like, I've always liked like the oversized Marvel Toy Biz characters. I've always liked those. I always liked the 12-inch G.I. Joe. I always liked big vehicles, big monsters, and you run out of space quickly. That's the reality of that, right? It's like when you collect 1/6 scale like Hot Toys, like you run out of space kind of quick. I don't have any Hot Toys, thank God. Though if Hot Toys made a Bosk, that would probably be the first one I get. Or if they did Cable, I'd probably get that. See, I'm doing it right now. I'm convincing myself that, oh, I need to get the, well, if I get Bosk, then I need to get like IG-11. That's what I'm talking about. That's the cycle I'm trying to break. This will be my first time, I guess, publicly saying it. I've decided to separate from the military at the end of my contract, which is next year. And I'm doing that because I'm tired of moving and I want to put down roots. I'm in my mid-30s. I've never owned a home, never been married, don't have any kids. Things that I'm supposed to have done by now, societally speaking, which I understand, oh, society says this doesn't mean you have to do it. I got it. Save the speech, please. But I decided I want to buy a home, right? Part of that kind of gift of the Magi kind of thing is that when I buy a home, even if it's just like a double wide trailer, at least it's a home. Like I'm done moving, but I'll have more space for toys. But I need to get rid of my toys so I can move because I don't want to move all this again. It's just kind of weird how things work out like that. And I'd considered packing things up, putting them into storage, like a U-Haul place or something, and it just didn't appeal to me because I've had things go into storage before during a move, and it just, I don't know. I don't like the idea of it. I can't put my finger on it. It makes me nervous. It makes me wonder, like, what happens if that facility floods? What happens if it catches on fire? I decided to try and pay down, existing debt. Maybe save up a little bit of money that I can put towards a deposit or closing costs or inspection fees or something. I need to sell off the collection. I need a fresh start. I need to get rid of the things I really don't want or don't care about and keep the things that I do, right? Because what I care about now is my mental health, buying my first home, and trying to be happy. And they say, You know, if you love what you do, then you never work a day in your life. YouTube quickly felt like work. It wasn't fun anymore. I love going live with my friends and shooting the shit with them and talking for hours about whatever subject. I love doing the ancient mysteries with Michael. I like showing up on Loose But Complete when I can. I like doing that. But I didn't want to become like another channel who only does live streams. And that's not a slight against those that do. It's just there's already a couple in our community that do that, and I didn't want to be another one that just does that. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, so I had to readjust and really think about what I'm doing on YouTube. And I'm like, if I'm not doing toys anymore, the channel's called 2 Cents Toys. So if I'm not talking about toys, then do I change the name? Do I keep the name? Do I talk about toys periodically? And that was part of the problem. Like I didn't want to talk about toys, and I felt it would be disingenuous for me to continue the channel with the audience that I built around toys and customizing toys and things like that. I felt it would be disingenuous for me to do like a bait and switch kind of thing. Like, oh, let me build this channel of almost 3,000 subscribers about toys, and then I'll just switch to movies. I'll just do that. It felt disingenuous. So I just didn't make anything. A lot of the stuff that I liked doing for the channel, like I made those coffins, I liked painting the skulls, I liked doing the customizing thing, but no one watched it. Working the hours that I do, because I work anywhere from 14 to 15 hours a shift, wearing 30, 40 pounds of body armor. I don't get a lot of off time, and the off time I do have is on night shift, and where I live, things aren't 24 hours anymore. They're, I have things I have to do, so I don't have a lot of free time. And when you see a small investment, like you spend, I don't know, 8-9 hours painting a skull or something, just for 20 people to watch it out of your almost 3,000 subscribers, you're like, okay, well, they don't care about this stuff. They're not subscribed for that stuff, so I won't make that stuff. And it just saves me time. Like, if I don't have to waste my time doing this thing, I can just do it on my own without having to film it. You know what I mean? Like, I have this as a project that I'm working on. I'm not going to film it because no one's going to watch it. Why would I waste my time? You know what I mean? And I get it, like, maybe that sounds elitist, maybe that makes me sound like an asshole, but it's true. A lot of the people who don't do YouTube won't get that. If you are someone who makes videos on YouTube, then you understand. Like, I'm kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit here. Like, when we put hours, sometimes days, or in Michael's case, months, into a video and no one watches it, it makes you be like, all right, well, fuck you. I'm not going to make this again. Like, why would I waste my time? It's a fact. It's the way that it is. Because we do this for fun, but to share the fun with other people. And if other people aren't enjoying that fun, then okay, I'll do something else, right? Been paring down the collection, been selling it off. It felt like I can't really do toy videos because I'm not buying toys anymore, right? Like, part of it, especially with Marvel Legends, is I felt like I had to have all these different versions or all these different characters for comparisons, like for height, for color variation, for costume variation, for articulation purposes. Like, I don't know, Cal Kestis is one. The first Cal Kestis, he has his like little poncho, not poncho, he has his like little shirt thing, but the new one has a poncho. So I'm like, okay, well, good thing I had the first Cal Kestis, because when I review this one, I'm going to have to talk about how the articulation is different, even though it's the same body, but this little piece of plastic changes everything. I never made that video because I didn't fucking care. It got to a point where I just didn't care. And then I end up, you can't really see it because the, webcam is attached to the camera, or I'm sorry, the webcam is attached to the computer. But I have a bunch of Marvel Legends over here that I was taking photos of because someone was interested in. I'm like, fucking, this guy's still over here from when I opened him on Loose But Complete. Never even made it to the shelf. He just lives right there. He is kind of cool, though. I'll give him that. It became a mess. Like, I would once a quarter, or once every few months, I would clean up my desk area, put all the figures where they need to be. But then let's say, I don't know, a Magneto would come in. And I'm like, well, now I gotta pull all the Magnetos I have off the shelf and do comparisons, but they're stacked in there, so if I pull this magneto out, everything's gonna fall forward, and I'm just gonna have to. It became a bigger hassle than what it looks like. Because what you see is the 6-minute video of me be like, here's articulation, here's all the height, here's the accessories. What you don't see is all that, like, okay, let me play Jenga blocks and oh, okay, all these figures just fell off the shelf. Okay, and that he dropped his gun. That's gone forever. I'm gonna have to look for that. Like, which again, it sounds petty or pedantic, or it sounds like I'm whining, I guess. And I guess to an extent I am. Like that's, but I'm just trying to tell you the reality of what goes on. I guess kind of the point of all this is that the collecting and the channel just became one entity. Like they became synonymous. And there were a lot of things I would get that I'd want to make a video about, or I'd want to talk about, like, my trip to Joe Fest. I really wanted to make content about that, but Iconicon was right up against it, and I ended up getting COVID while I was at Joe Fest. I don't know if I ever publicly said that. If you go back and watch Iconicon 2022, I think it was 2022. I was sick as a dog through all of it. Didn't know what it was until the last day of Iconicon. I woke up and couldn't smell or taste anything. I'm like, oh, I had COVID. I thought I had the flu or the con crud or something, but it was COVID. It took me a while to get over that. Then I went back into work, and then it just got away from me. I was burnt out. The first year we did Iconicon took a lot out of all of us who planned it. That's me, Tony, Melinda, Michael, Banhammer Tim, all of us, Ryan, Thomas. It took a lot out of all of us, especially Melinda. Melinda really shouldered the burden of most of it both years in a row. So I needed time to reset. Like I didn't quite get on my feet after Iconicon the first time until Action Force came out, and then I started talking about those. And then I slowed down a little bit because of work, and then Joe Fest, Iconicon hit again, and I slowed down a lot because I again had COVID. I went back to work, and then I wouldn't say I got promoted, but I got put into a leadership position at work. So my work became more cumbersome. I had more things I had to do at work. It became more stressful. The channel suffered because of it, and I found that combined with everything else I'd said about free time and all that I needed more time to myself, for my mental health, for my happiness, to not do YouTube for a minute. And I tried to make videos. I tried a couple shorts. That's when I did the whole collection tour, things like that, and it took a lot out of me. And I'll be honest, watching the collection tour video not do well after people asking for it for a couple of years really kind of just took away the remaining motivation I had to make any more videos. I know, again, it sounds so like, woe is me, pity me kind of thing, but it's just the reality of it. I had, anyone who collects, you all collect. You have to buy shelving, you have to set everything up the way you want it to look, you have to like do all that kind of stuff, and I did all of that, and it just didn't do well. And that was kind of like, okay, no one's watching the figure reviews, no one's watching the customizing videos, no one's watching the craft videos, and the one that like unanimously everyone wanted to see, no one watched. So I guess that's it for my YouTube career. Like they call it a dead channel when you stop growing, when you're not getting subscribers, when you're not getting better views, when all that kind of stuff. I just watched it trickle down, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's it. And then I continued to collect anyway, which circles back to not having any room. If you watch the collection tour, you can see there's no room for anything. And it just got to a point where I was feeling suffocated by everything. I couldn't walk around my apartment. I had to walk very gingerly around everything in case something fell over or I knocked something over. Even the Rattler, which used to be over there, its wings stood off the shelf about that far. So whenever I would walk in with groceries, which my kitchen is through that little doorway, I'd have to like take my grocery bags and put them up over my head and like shuffle like Zoidberg past it so I wouldn't knock it over. It was almost like hoarding, really, but it was a collection, so it was different, right? I mean, it's not, but it was different because it's a collection and everything had its home, everything had its place. Except for the shit in the blue tubs and all the toys that were crowding my desk because I had nowhere to put them. or the stack of pre-order boxes that were next to my desk because I had nowhere to put them. So it was time to sell things. And if I started to sell things, I had to sell other things because they were sets or they were pairs mentally in my head. That's just the way that it was. Motu Origins was a thing. I bought a whole load of those because I was excited. I was like, this is my chance to get it in on He-Man at the ground level for once. And I did that, but I lost interest. And I think really the shipping delays in 2021 played a big part in a lot of that. Just because pre-orders would go up, and then you'd wait a year for something that you used to only wait like a handful of months for. And it's like, okay, well, I get the dopamine from the pre-order. Where's my stuff? Where's the real dopamine hit? Gotta wait. And then that kind of circles back to, I've touched on it sprinkled throughout, but it kind of circles back to the YouTube thing. My Black Series Snowspeeder video only did well because it was the first one, or one of the first ones, if not the first one on YouTube. That's the only reason it did well. It's the only reason. And when you're up against giants like other channels that have a few zeros next to their names, you don't stand a chance because they get their stuff direct from Hasbro or Mattel or whoever. They get it direct from them, and they're the first. You can't beat them. You have to rely on looks and charisma, of which I have none. Just the reality that I live in. I just wore down over time, and I guess it's just all those things combined led me to go, you know what? It's time to get rid of this stuff. I like all this stuff. Like I don't take glee. I'm not excited to sell off my collection that I spent years building. But it's just the reality I live in. It's time to move. It's time to move on. I have to get rid of these things. I'm not saying it's time to grow up or anything like that. It's just, like, you can't see them, but my 1/6 scale bounty hunters from, like, Power of the Force, Power of the Jedi that are up there, I got Bosk. That's the one I wanted. I wanted Bosk. Well, then I found Zuckuss and Forlom at a used toy store. Okay, I'll get Zuckuss and Forlom. That's fine. But then I found Boba Fett. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get Boba Fett. Well, now I just need IG-11. I just need IG-88. I think I said IG-11 earlier. I meant IG-88. I never got IG-88. And it bothered me. Still bothers me. But that's just an example. Like, I don't collect that scale. I don't need that scale, but I had ones, and I found two more. Okay, well, now I'm almost done. That's... Like the NECA gargoyles, as much shit as I talk about NECA, the gargoyles look fantastic. And I really like the show and the toys from when I was a kid, the Kenner toys. And I really want Goliath. But I'm not going to get Goliath. One, he takes up too much space. But I also want Lexington and I want Brooklyn. Well, if I get those two, then all I need is Broadway and Hudson, and I have the core gargoyles. But I have to get Bronx if I want the wings for Goliath. Okay, well, if I get the wing, and then I only need Demonia, and so then I get her. But then you see how that goes, and they know that. The toy companies know that. That's how they get all of us. I don't feel like I'm speaking in gibberish here, talking about that kind of mentality. It's a rabbit hole, right? So one day I'll probably collect again. You know, I buy, looking up at Samus, I do buy the periodic figure. But it's to a point now where I'm like, okay, I have Samus. If they did Gravity Suit Samus, maybe, because that's Varia Suit. Maybe. If they did, I don't know, Dark Samus, maybe, probably not. I've at least broken that part, you know, where I'm, okay, I got the one representative of it. I'm all set. I'm all good. And that's where I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get to where I only need one Cable figure, and that'll represent Cable for me. That's it. That's the one. I'm trying to get to that point. But it's hard. It's really hard. So, my plan at the moment is to upload this video. I'm going to schedule it for, I think, Tuesday next week, maybe Friday next week, probably Friday. I'm going to schedule it, and my plan, which you may see if you're subscribed, is to go live immediately after this video is done airing. So I can answer any follow-on questions, you can say your piece, you can do whatever. Um, that's just the plan. Super chats won't be enabled. I'm not dealing with the YouTube money and taxes this year. I'm just not going to do it. Especially on top of the taxes I'm going to have to pay for all the stuff I've been selling. I'm not dealing with that. So, if you have any follow-on questions, or if you feel like I left anything out, or I need to explain something further, I'll be going live after this video is done. I'll be joined by Laser Pants. I've already talked to him. As of this recording, anyway, it's Thursday, April 6th at the moment. That's subject to change. It might just be me, but I did invite Ryan. I'll probably invite Michael and a couple other people if they want to come on. So, cause I'm sure they'll have their own questions. But I don't intend to stop YouTube entirely. I feel like that was a bit of confusion. I made a comment and I pinned it at the top of the other video. I realized in hindsight how that title and the thumbnail looked. I was more talking about the collection going away, but I don't intend to quit YouTube entirely. I do enjoy like this kind of part. I really enjoy going live with my friends and just talking to them because geographically we can't just go hang out or get dinner or something. Like this is what we have. So going forward, I'll probably talk more about video games. I'll talk more about crafts and things. Like I might make a video out of this, but I probably won't, to be honest with you. Mostly because it's experimental. I don't know I know what I want it to look like, but I don't know how to do that. So there's going to be a lot of trial and error probably. But that's another thing. A lot of my custom videos, that was pure trial and error. Like I really didn't know what I was doing. I just started hitting stuff with paintbrushes and cutting stuff away. Just hope to God that it worked. So people ask how I got good at it. That's how I got good at it. I just did it. You can do it too. I promise. It's not that hard. But yeah, so my plan is to continue doing YouTube, whether the channel name changes or not. I don't know. I think it's probably fine the way that it is. It's just my name. It's just what it is now. Who cares? But, you know, I might talk about a toy periodically. But that's the plan going forward, at least at the moment. We'll see. So, anyway, I hope to see some of you live after this. I'm willing to bet that I'll see people in the chat who didn't watch this video because they're not subscribed with the bell rang. They're just going to see that I'm live and hop in the chat and wonder what's going on, because that happens. But I do get it. Everyone has their own life to live. They can't just sit here and just wait for me with their hands like this, waiting for me to drop another video. I get it. Like, I'm not so disillusioned or think I'm so important. But it's kind of like one of those, like, really, like, if you're interested enough to show up to the live stream, you're interested enough to have the bell ring and know when I drop a video, which is not very often. So you kind of need the bell rung to know when the videos are going to come out. Because I used to drop them Tuesday, Friday, like that, and they were predictable. Not anymore. Anyway, I hope that answers some questions. Again, I'll be live immediately after this video to answer more questions if you have any. And I thank you for sitting through all this and listening to me ramble and all that shit. So, anyway, I'll see you next time. I'm Sal, signing off.